Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really fundamental for nursing. How do you actually know if the care you're giving is, well, making a
It
difference?
sounds simple, doesn't it?
It does, but it's often not that straightforward in practice.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, um, did I do the thing? It's about, did the patient actually get better because of what I did? And that, right there, is evaluation.
Exactly. And that's our mission today, a deep dive into the evaluation phase of the nursing process. We're pulling directly from foundational nursing knowledge.
Our goal is to give you a really clear, practical handle on this. You can apply it, in the hospital, out in the community, home care.
And feel ready for those NCLEX questions on it too. We'll look at how critical thinking and clinical judgment weave into evaluation.
Yeah, we'll break down the terms, talk through some key steps, and really connect it all back to providing safe, quality care.
Okay, so let's start defining it. Evaluation. It's usually called the final step in the nursing process.
Right. It's where you figure out if the patient's condition or their overall well-being actually improved after you did your nursing interventions.
But you hinted at this earlier. It's not just about checking off that you did the intervention.
No, definitely not. That's a common misconception. It's about sufficiency and benefit. Was the intervention enough? Was it helpful? You gave the pain med? Great. Did the pain level actually drop like you expected? That's evaluation.
So how do nurses do this? What tools are they using?
Well, it's the skills you're already familiar with, actually. Physical examination, observation, like really looking at the patient and communication, asking the right questions, listening carefully.
Okay, but here's something that can be tricky, right? The difference between evaluative measures and assessment measures. They seem to use the same skills.
That's a really key point. They do use the same skills, but the purpose is different. Assessment is about finding the problems, what's wrong.
Identifying the baseline.
Exactly. Evaluation comes after the intervention. It asks, did those problems we identified change? Did they get better, worse, stay the same? It's about measuring the impact of your care.
The source had a simple analogy. I liked the pet food one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
You assess bowls full, you plan try new food, you intervene, put out the new food, then you evaluate, did the cat eat it? Is she okay?
Right. It simplifies the cycle. Assess, plan, intervene, evaluate. Nursing is obviously way more complex, but that core idea holds.
And it's not like you evaluate once at the end and you're done.
Oh, absolutely not. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
Every time you interact with the patient, you're evaluating something. And this continuous feedback loop isn't just for that one patient. It helps the whole healthcare organization figure out what practices are working well. Quality improvement stuff.
Let's talk about the thinking behind it then. Clinical judgment and critical thinking. The source's judgment isn't just an evaluation, it's throughout the whole process.
It has to be, right? You're making judgments constantly. But in evaluation, it really comes to a head. There are 4 key actions that show a nurse is really competent at evaluation.
Okay, what are they?
First, you examine the results, look at the actual data you gathered after the intervention.
Okay.
Second, you compare those results to what you expected to happen, those outcomes you set earlier.
Makes sense. Compare achieved versus expected.
Third, you have to be able to recognize if there were any errors or things missed in the care.
Omissions, yeah.
And fourth, you reflect. You think about the whole situation, understand it, and then you correct any errors you found. It's a cycle of analysis and correction.
So it's this constant comparison. What did the patient look like before I did this, and what do they look like now?
Precisely. That comparison tells you if they're moving in the right direction.
Let's make it concrete. Pneumonia patient. They get antibiotics. How does the team evaluate?
Well, the doctor might order another chest x-ray later. But the nurse is constantly evaluating, listening to their lungs again. Ask about the cough. Is it looser, less frequent? Checking their temperature. You're looking for signs of resolution.
Or wound care. The nurse doesn't just slap on a dressing and walk away.
Right. They assess the wound first, color, size, drainage. Then they apply the compress or dressing. Then they come back and re-inspect. Did the redness go down? Is there less drainage? Did we meet the expected outcome for that wound? It's very specific.
Like with Mr. Lawson in the case study, Tanya evaluates his post-op pain. He says it's a 3, mostly when moving.
Okay, so that's his self-report.
Then she looks at his incision, checks its appearance.
Good observation.
And then this is key. She asks him and his wife to explain infection signs and asks him about activity restrictions. She's evaluating his understanding, his cognitive grasp.
Exactly. She's using multiple measures, self-report, direct observation, checking their knowledge. That's thorough evaluation.
So what else influences how well a nurse can do this? You mentioned knowledge earlier.
Yeah, knowledge is fundamental. Your brain is constantly sorting through what you know about this patient's condition, typical symptoms, the usual course, how interventions should work. That's your internal data bank. It helps you recognize immediately if things are on track or going sideways.
And experience must play a huge part too.
Oh, massively. You become an expert evaluator by seeing things over and over. You learn the subtle signs of a pressure injury starting, or the different ways people show pain without words, or how someone's walk changes slightly as they recover.
Like pattern recognition.
Exactly. There was research mentioned that identified key themes for spotting patient deterioration: assessing the patient, knowing the patient, and education. That knowing the patient comes from experience.
Like Tanya recognizing Mr. Lawson's potential pulmonary embolus.
Perfect example. Her knowledge and experience combined allowed her to pick up on subtle signs that something serious was wrong, even just 24 hours post-op.
Wow. Okay, so knowledge, experience, what else? Standards and attitudes.
Definitely. The ANA American Nurses Association has clear standards for evaluation. Things like being systematic, using criteria, collaborating, using assessment data to revise plans, communicating results. These are the guardrails.
And those criteria you mentioned, they often come from the planning stage, right? The expected outcomes.
Yes, those SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, those become your standards for evaluation for that specific patient. Mr. Lawson's pain goal, drop from a 7 to a 4 or less, move without splinting. That's the benchmark Tonya evaluates against.
And there are broader standards too, like clinical guidelines.
Absolutely. Things like pressure injury staging criteria or scales for assessing 5E site phlebitis from groups like the INS. These give you objective, evidence-based standards to compare against.
Yeah.
It's not just your opinion. It's based on established best practice.
And attitudes matter too.
Critical thinking attitudes are vital. Humility, being able to say, I'm not sure, I need more data. Responsibility, owning your actions and their outcomes, using intellectual standards like being clear, precise, accurate in your evaluation.
It sounds like you need to be really self-aware.
You do. And we can't ignore the environment either. Time pressure, interruptions, how complex the task is, the resources you have, all that can impact your ability to evaluate properly.
You just have to make the time for it.
You really do. Rushing evaluation is dangerous.
Okay, let's walk through the evaluation process more methodically. It starts with examining the results, which you said is ongoing.
Right. Every patient contact is a chance to evaluate. You're comparing current data to previous data or to those standards we talked about.
And the measures you use, the evaluative measures, they're like assessment skills, but used after the intervention to see if there's change.
Exactly. So let's take that pressure injury example again,
Right.
maybe from table 20.1 in the text. You'd be inspecting the color, the condition around it, measuring the diameter daily, noting the drainage. You're looking specifically, is the redness less, diameter smaller, drainage gone? You're measuring change against your goal.
Or the early ambulation example. After the patient walks, you measure their pulse, respiratory rate, watch for shortness of breath.
And compare it to their baseline. Did the pulse come back down quickly? Did they feel breathless? You're evaluating if they met the outcome, like pulse returns to baseline within 3 minutes, or patient denies dyspnea during ambulation.
And you stressed collecting this data over time.
Critically important,
Yeah.
especially for things that change slowly. You need to see the trend. Is that wound consistently getting smaller week by week in home care? Is the fall risk score gradually decreasing over months in a nursing home? One snapshot isn't always enough.
And using the right tools, validated pain scales, staging systems.
Yes, using reliable and valid tools ensures your evaluation is accurate and objective. It's not just guesswork.
What about evaluating behaviors? Like, did the patient actually take their meds?
That's tougher, relies a lot on self-report. But there are tools for that too, like self-management indicators. These might include scales assessing their confidence or tracking adherence or even looking at quality of life measures.
This seems like a good place to bring in NOC, the nursing outcomes classification.
Yes. NOC is a standardized nursing language, specifically for outcomes. It helps ensure everyone is talking at outcomes in the same way.
How does it work?
It has hundreds of outcomes, I think around 540. Each outcome has specific indicators you can measure, often using Likert scales like a 1 to 5 rating. For example, the outcome anxiety level might have indicators like restlessness or verbalized anxiety that you rate.
And the benefit of using something standardized like
Okay.
NOC.
Big benefits. It provides a consistent way to evaluate across different settings. It lets you actually quantify change over time. It improves the accuracy of care plans, streamlines documentation, helps communication between disciplines. It's really key for evidence-based practice and hitting those NCLEX competencies.
Okay, so you've collected your data using these measures. The next big step is comparing the achieved effects with the expected outcomes.
This is where you make the judgment call. Did the patient meet the goal? You look at your findings objectively and decide. Did they improve, worsen, stay the same? You consider everything, even their motivation.
Back to Mr. Lawson's anxiety about work. Tanya's evaluating that.
Right. She'd observe him. Is his facial expression less tense? Is he paying attention during teaching? She'd listen to his self-report. Can he clearly explain his activity restrictions without getting flustered? If yes, that suggests the outcome of reduced anxiety is being met.
Then you interpret and summarize, you learn to spot what's relevant, even if it wasn't exactly what you expected, right? And identify complications.
Exactly. The book breaks this down into about 5 steps. 1, look at the specific outcome you wanted. 2, evaluate the patient's actual behavior or response. 3, compare the desired and actual. 4, judge how well they match up. 5, if they don't match or only partially match, figure out why and what to do next.
Like the examples in Table 20.4, maybe evaluating if someone can do hand hygiene correctly or change their own dressing or if their cough is improved. It's a structured comparison.
And part of this is being prepared to recognize errors or unmet outcomes.
Which will happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No one's perfect, and patients are complex. You need an open mind, patience, confidence, and that crucial self-reflection. Sometimes you find missed care interventions that just didn't get done. Reflection lets you figure out, okay, do I need to do this more often? Try a different approach.
That reflective reasoning sounds key to getting better over time, learning from mistakes or near misses.
It really is. It stops you from just making assumptions and helps you refine your clinical decisions. Thinking back on why something didn't work is how you prevent it from happening again.
Which leads perfectly into revising the care plan. Evaluation tells you what to do next.
Exactly. Do we continue the plan as is? Do you discontinue parts of it? Or do we need to revise it?
And the patient and family are key here.
Essential. They live with the condition. They can tell you, yes, that helped, or no, that didn't make a difference, or that actually made things worse. Their input is a vital evaluative measure.
So if the outcomes are met,
Great. You might keep the successful interventions going, maybe an exercise plan. Or if the goal is fully achieved, like they've mastered wound care, you document that and discontinue that specific part of the plan.
but often things need tweaking. Revision is common.
Very common, usually because the patient's condition changes, or their needs change, or maybe their ability changes.
Like the insulin example.
Yeah, that's a good one. Patients learning self-injection, fine, outcome is nearly met, then they develop a tremor. Suddenly, they can't safely self-inject. The original outcome is now impossible.
So you have to reassess.
Completely. Reassess the new situation. Maybe the new intervention is teaching a family member. The new outcome becomes about the family member's ability to give the insulin safely. The plan adapts.
So unmet outcomes usually trigger a full reassessment. Going back to those SMART goals, were they really achievable, specific enough? Was the time frame right?
Yes, you might need to modify the outcomes themselves. Or maybe you need to refine or add nursing diagnoses based on new cues you picked up during evaluation.
Like Tanya using Teachback with Mr. Lawson. She asks him to explain the restrictions.
Right. And when his wife mentions the grandkids, Tanya gets new information relevant to his specific life.
And she adapts her teaching right then and there. Lifting children counts as lifting.
Perfect real-time revision based on evaluation and new data.
And when you do discontinue a plan because goals are met,
You confirm it with the patient. Looks like you've got this wound care down. How do you feel about it? And then you document clearly that this part of the plan is resolved. Saves confusion later.
and revising interventions themselves.
You look at 2 things mainly. Was the intervention appropriate in the first place? Based on standards care, guidelines, care bundles?
Like for chemo-induced mucositis, are we using standard protocols for pain control, mouth care, diet?
Exactly. And second, was it applied correctly? Maybe the intervention is right, but it needs to be done more often or less often. Or maybe the level of care needs changing. Maybe the patient needs more assistance now, or maybe they can do more independently, so you shift from provide total care to assist as needed.
It's very fluid.
Very. If the response isn't good, you reassess, consult the team, tweak the plan, and keep evaluating. It never really stops.
Which underlines the importance of documentation and collaboration.
Absolutely critical. Your documentation shares the patient's story, their progress, their current status. It's vital for handoffs for team communication.
And using standard language like NIC and NOC in the EHR helps.
Huge help. It improves consistency, accuracy, quality of documentation overall. Tanya's note is a good example. time, what she taught, how she evaluated understanding, teach back, return demonstration, and the plan moving forward. Clear, concise, informative.
And collaboration isn't just with other professionals.
No, patient and family are central. They're your partners in care and often the best judges of whether an intervention truly works for them. Did the pain actually lessen? Is breathing easier? Did that teaching actually help them change a behavior?
And it's good practice to ask about their expectations too, right?
Yes. Is this pain relief meeting what you expected? It builds partnership, makes care truly patient-centered.
Okay, let's zoom out one last time to the system level. How does evaluation impact overall healthcare quality?
It has a massive impact. Think about CMS Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. They don't pay hospitals for treating certain preventable problems that occur during the hospital stay.
Like serious pressure injuries or infections from catheters or central line?
Exactly. Things like stage 3 or 4 pressure injuries, major infections like CE-ODIs and CLAPSIs, serious falls. These are often considered nursing-sensitive outcomes.
Meaning good nursing care can directly prevent them.
Precisely. And preventing them saves patients pain and longer stays and saves the system huge amounts of money.
So hospitals track these things.
They do. Many participate in the National Database of Nursing Quality Indicators, or NDNQI. It collects unit-level data on these nursing-sensitive outcomes: fall rates, pressure injury rates, infection rates, even things like nurse staffing and skill mix. It helps hospitals benchmark their performance. Magnet hospitals, known for nursing excellence, have to track this stuff.
So my individual practice of evaluating my patient connects to this bigger picture.
Directly. By carefully evaluating your patients, implementing evidence-based guidelines, and catching potential problems early, you are contributing to preventing those adverse outcomes. You're building the evidence for quality care, one patient at a time.
So wrapping this up, evaluation clearly isn't just the last step you rush through.
Not at all. It's dynamic, it requires sharp critical thinking, it's collaborative, and it's absolutely fundamental to safe, effective quality nursing care.
And it seems like every time you evaluate whether things went perfectly or you need to change course, you learn something, you get better.
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
It's how you grow from just doing tasks to becoming a real clinical problem solver. You're analyzing, adjusting, predicting. It's a highly skilled process.
It really transforms your practice. Well, thank you for breaking that down so clearly.
My pleasure. It's such a crucial part of what we do as nurses.
And thank you, our listeners, for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this helps you feel more confident and capable in evaluating the impact of your care. You're part of our learning community, and we're glad you were here. Keep diving deep.